Welcome to the third webinar dedicated to manifesting and living your dreams in 2016. Thank you, Sheldon, for joining me today.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you viewers for continuing our journey together. And today we are going to explore some of the details of how to create a strategy that would allow you to step by step travel along the path of manifesting your dreams in this year. In our previous webinars, we discussed the principles of manifestation and also developed an idea or clear vision of what it would be like to have our dreams come true and what it looks like in comparison to the current state of affairs. Now, I remember when we worked on this particular subject matter with you, Sheldon, we looked at the pie chart and developed certain ideas about where you are on that pie chart and where you would like to be, right?
Right.
Cool. And you remember probably which of the areas of the pie chart required more attention, which ones required less attention?
Yeah, I think family time definitely was higher on my priority within the next coming year, and also some business stuff and spiritual development as well.
Fantastic. So today we're going to dive right into the development of a game plan that will allow us to understand how we can actually make it happen. We don't want to just talk the talk, we want to walk the talk. And in order to do that, we will simply follow the strategic planning methodology that is somewhat similar to what NASA, for example, used when John Kennedy announced that by the end of decade, American man would be walking on the moon. And the NASA went like, how are we going to do that? And so they actually hired a strategic planning consultant who said, well, if in 10 years you need to have a man walking on the moon, where do you need to be in 9 years from now? So that in 1 more year, you would actually manifest what you set out to manifest. And then where would you need to be in 8 years from now? And so on. So basically bringing it closer and closer to the present time. In a sense, reverse engineering the manifestation of the dream. Does it make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. Well, what I would like you to do is simply spend a little bit of time imagining what would it be like to manifest the dream of all of those aspirations that you mentioned you would like to manifest by the end of this year, including the family and relationships and spiritual development and also business. If you just imagine for a moment and share with me as if there is a movie about your life. And the snapshot at the end of 2016, perhaps I'm going to come and visit you in California. What would it be like? What would you describe your environment would be like? What would be the accomplishments that you achieve? And perhaps your state of consciousness and way of being?
Yeah, I think I see myself, spending a lot more time with family, more quality time. My schedule's so busy, it's challenging. My family lives not very close, so seeing them is kind of challenging. And even some of the family members that are close, I don't get to see them as often. So I definitely want to spend more time with them, have more memories with them while we're, still in this state, healthy and happy. And also, as far as spiritual development, I see myself, especially this year, doing a lot of study, a lot more meditation, or a lot more practice of the work that I've been kind of working on in the last 10 years. And so it's really that time for me to get a lot deeper into that work as well. So,
and by that work, I mean a Chan meditation or some other type of spiritual practice?
Meditation, different spiritual practices. Also, just deepening of my art in Kung Fu and Qigong. and all of those kind of circle around each other. They're all kind of part of the same practice for me. So a lot more quality time in the practice now. I've learned a lot. I've probably learned enough. It's just a matter of putting it into actual practice and spending the time every morning.
And not only in the morning, I would encourage you to practice throughout the day. And of course, I teach dream yoga, so that's something that I practice also during the night. So definitely, it can become a 24/7 type of practice.
Definitely all the time. And I mean, I normally teach during the afternoons and the evenings, so I always get that time in. But a lot of times when I wake up in the morning, I don't, get a chance to set up my day with the proper kind of mind state and things like that. And so I want to spend more time, developing myself in that way. So.
Cool. Well, let's see how we can concretize it a little bit. In order to make it happen, let's see if we can create a timeline. Like I mentioned, that you can imagine the movie produced about your life. Well, let's see if we can just look at the particular part of the movie dedicated to this year. So, for example, between now and the end of the year, we can create a timeline that we can fast forward or rewind and take a look at different episodes happening at different months or different parts of the year. To make it happen easier, to make it more visually appealing, perhaps we can just grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and simply draw the line. And obviously, we're going to go to the right. So this is where we are right now. And you can put the word now or present. And at the opposite end of the line, let's say year end. And what we're going to do is we're going to explore more specifically what happens at different times during the year so that we would feel like we're on the right track. Now, when you describe to me what you imagine the scenario or the vision would be like if you take a snapshot of the end of the year, let's see if we can imagine another thing. Looking at that exact experience from point of view of a fly on a wall. And this fly is a very interesting creature. It doesn't pay attention to your appearance. It only pays attention to your energy. Now, if you imagine being able to perceive that whole scene from the point of view of a fly on a wall, what kind of energy would you have that is associated with the manifestation of this dream? Achieving greater level of spiritual development, greater satisfaction with family dynamics, and also your business development.
Yeah. I think the challenging part for me is that some of these things are at odds with each other, and that's the biggest challenge, I think. Not to go too far into it, but my spiritual development is very calm and metered, and then my business development is very rapid and fast. Part of the reason why I need the spiritual development to kind of offset or balance the business aspect. And so those are some of the challenges, and as well as the business conflicts with my family time. So those are some of the things that are challenging.
Very interesting. So if you manage to find balance between these seemingly contradictory or conflicting or at least competing areas of life, what would be the energy associated with striking such balance?
I think I said this before. I'll probably say this a lot. It'd be a level of consistency. It wouldn't be too much of anything. It would just be consistent and even, and so that it's not kind of wearing the other ones thin, and there can be a smooth transition between those things as well. So.
Right, and if the energy of consistency had any color or any texture to it, what would it be like?
The consistent energy would be like a soothing green color. Yeah.
Soothing green color. Very cool. And if the same fly on a wall could perceive you right now in the present moment.
Hmm.
What kind of energy do you currently have associated with the current state of affairs?
I'd say that I'm more in like a yellow state right
Okay.
now. Uh, so it's a little further away from green. It's moving more towards red. A
A little bit less balanced?
little bit less balance, yeah, right now. So
I see. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I invite you to do as well, Sheldon, is to actually write it down. So green, balanced energy at the right end of the scale or right end of the timeline.
mhm.
And on the left, yellow, less balanced energy. And we're going to continue because it's not only the current state of affairs and the desired state that you would like to achieve or experience at the end of the year that matter. It's also the transitions that matter a lot. And for some people, it could be really overwhelming to try to jump from the current state of affairs to the dream state or to the desired state associated with manifestation of the dreams, because the gap may be just really huge. And the greater the gap, by and large, the greater there is the discrepancy between the energies associated with it. And so switching from one to the other may feel really impossible. What we're going to do is we're not going to switch from the energy associated with less balance towards the energy associated with more balance in one clean swoop. We can actually break it down into several switches. In other words, throughout the course of the year, there's going to be some transitions. And also in terms of balance, perhaps some parts of the year you will feel a little bit less balanced. Some parts of the year you may feel a little bit more balanced. For example, business development. It may require diving head first into it, for example, to achieve certain things or to get the ball rolling, as it were, to gain momentum, which perhaps may continue closer to the end of the year. And when that's happening, you don't have to put as much emphasis into the business development. Does it make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, great. So let's see if we can break it into halves. The length of the timeline, let's see if we can divide it in half. Where would you need to be at the middle of the year? Let's say middle of July, so that you would feel you're in the right track and you are going to manifest what you set out to manifest in another half of the year.
Yeah, I think in the middle of the year, everything's going to be in high gear. It's going to be more focused on business, so I'll be in the red at that point. And there's going to be a lot of turbulence.
Turbulence.
Yeah, a lot of turbulence up and down to make things happen. So that's probably going to be the most unbalanced time.
I see. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just mentioning.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be like a ramp. So.
Makes sense. And this is something that many of our viewers and listeners could also experience. It may not be a straight line from where they are to where they want to be. This may also be a zigzag line. It may go on a loop. It can take them on the journey bypassing certain obstacles, perhaps. In other words, there are going to be some turning points along the way. And that's something to watch out for. Now, when you describe to me that there would be a red energy that is more kind of proactive, business-oriented, and how much the imbalance would you be feeling? More balance or less balance?
Probably less balance. All of my energies would be put into one thing. I really wouldn't be able to spend a lot of time with family at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm with myself all the time, I have to make it a point to do the spiritual work when I'm in that state, almost especially when I'm in that state. That is going to be the trick.
Makes sense. And in terms of business development, are there going to be any particular milestones that you need to hit or achieve in order to know that you're on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some events, and then launching some new programs and stuff with my center, and so there's going to be some milestones definitely for getting those things done.
Well, and of course, we could, if we were not doing this in a public webinar, dive deeper into the specific details of what those events would be and what the business goals might be. Obviously, this is something that I do with all my coaching clients on a consistent basis as they progress along their path. And at the same time, also, I want to maintain some degree of privacy for you. Now, when you describe to me that you would be at that point in your journey along the way in mid-year, where would you need to be in 3 months from now so that in 3 more months you know that you are on the right track to manifest the dream that you just described to manifest?
Definitely the energy would have basically started to turn up at that point, and there would be a lot of groundwork that would have to be set. So pretty much from now until that point is going to be a lot of groundwork setting for those business goals.
For setting groundwork, developing certain foundation for what it is that you're going to be doing in 6 months is obviously a natural thing to be doing in 3 months from now. Right. And what kind of energy would you need to have in order to be able to set up the groundwork, so to speak?
A lot of focused energy, not a lot of distraction towards other things and other goals, and really trying to stay consistent with myself about focus and not getting distracted. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just that loop. It's like, oh, something shiny, leave it alone. Just do your work. So.
Well, and this is also something that has everything to do with ability to pay attention to the things that are of high value to you. So in our next webinar, I'll be talking about developing clarity about our value systems. And this is something that is absolutely essential for anyone who wants to manifest their dreams, is to be able to focus their attention on the priorities, on things that are of highest value. Because if we get distracted by other things that we don't really value that much, then we'll be wondering, why did I spend all this time and energy pursuing some things that were not really of high value to me? I wasted all my time. I don't really have energy to pursue things that I wanted to pursue. Well, it's because there was no clarity about what's important and what's not important. Makes sense, right?
Makes
Now,
sense.
in terms of color of the energy, what would it be in the month and a half from today so that you know that you are on the right track developing the groundwork?
It'd be yellow turning orange.
If we break it into even smaller chunks, so coming even closer to the present moment, let's take a look at where you would need to be in just 3 weeks from now so that you would know that you are on the right track, you are building momentum, and perhaps also developing some degree of groundwork like you described.
Yeah, in about 3 weeks is when really the work gets really started for me. Right now I'm kind of in like this suspended animation as certain things have to take place.
Right. You'll be coming back from your trip overseas.
Yeah, I'll be overseas. And so, for me, one of the things that I realized, because I have a high value on family this year especially, is that during those times that I'll have to schedule family time. Like I'll have to do that because otherwise, I can get caught up in business and I don't want to make that a higher value even though it supports the family time. If there's no business, we'll be spending a lot of time together very hungry.
Right. So finding that fine balance between too much work time and no family time versus too much family time and no work time obviously needs to happen sooner, and the sooner it happens, the better.
Right.
So is it what you will be working on in 3 weeks from now?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll probably have to plan some family events that aren't too taxing, that make it easy for everybody, where it makes it easy for us to meet because we're kind of at distant places, or and just kind of start setting those things up now also, right. So that they don't compete with other things because they're already set, so that's kind of what I think needs to happen now is like really to get with my family and say, hey, we need to plan some stuff out right now because I'm going to get really busy, and if I don't, then we're not going to see each other.
Yes. Well, and hopefully the family members also have similar priorities and values in their minds.
Well, some of them. Some of them are retired. They don't have to worry about that kind
I
of
see.
stuff. This is what I do.
Excellent. Okay, so as you can see, we are basically breaking it into smaller and smaller chunks, coming closer and closer to the present time. And we could, if we wanted to, break it into even smaller, maybe 10 days or even 5 days increments. Since you're going to be out of country, probably it doesn't make sense to do that. But that is what I do with my coaching clients, and our viewers and listeners of this seminar are more than welcome to request a complimentary session to actually go through this process and develop their authentic strategy for manifesting dreams by the end of this year. Now, did it help for you, Sheldon, to break the journey into smaller increments and also to identify particular types of energy and ways of being associated with certain milestones?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times I'm just playing it by ear. So, it's kind of nice to have a game plan and understand, even in the communication with the people that I'm going to be doing business with and with my family, and and even myself, as far as, hey, when you get up in the morning, you gotta do this and do that. I think it's an important thing. So it gives me a gauge on what I need to do. So, and I think it's easier when I start to write it down too. Like I have a map.
Great. So, as a piece of homework for you, I would highly encourage you, Sheldon, and all our viewers and listeners as well, to do this exercise, to literally draw this timeline. And let's focus on breaking it down into smaller and smaller increments, mostly in the first half of the year. If we make it happen in the first half of the year, it will be tremendously easier to make the second half of the year successful as well, right?
Yeah.
If we don't get the ball rolling in the right direction in the first half of the year, well, we'll be playing catch up with the second half because we obviously wasted a lot of time and energy. Now, before we complete our exploration today, let me ask you energetic practices that you are familiar with, Sheldon. Would you be able to use this visualization of different colors of energy, perhaps different textures, perhaps different locations of these energies in your body? Like, for example, if I ask you, where is the yellow energy residing in your body right now? Where would you say it is?
Definitely in my head. And that's, all my thinking and processing and the pre-doing aspects. So.
I see. And for example, that red energy that you would need to tap into at the midpoint of the year, where would you find that in your system?
It definitely comes down to my heart. It's going to take a lot of courage and a lot of fire and fight. So, yeah.
Very cool. And how about that green energy that you described associated with greater balance that you would like to achieve by the end of the year?
I feel like it comes down lower to my belly area. And it's a little blue-green around there.
Excellent. And so this awareness and all the practices that we go through in Qigong coaching obviously allow us to tap into the energy resources that we either don't even know that we have, or we just simply forget that we have these resources. And so this is something that we will continue doing over the course of this year. And obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg as compared to what we're going to be able to manifest if we really dive into the practice of Qigong coaching together. Now, do you have any questions or comments about this process, Sheldon?
When I'm in these different points, like let's say that I'm in the red energy, as a coach, I'm probably going to want to talk about, hey, this is what's going on for me, and this is where I'm at, or I thought I was going to be here, and I'm not there, And is that part of the program? Is that something that takes place? Is that dialogue during those different parts of the year?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what the coach does. So essentially, the coach is like your best friend, except most of our friends, even the best friends, often don't have the time and the skill set to maintain accountability. So the coach actually checks up on you on a consistent basis, weekly or sometimes bi-weekly or several times a month, to see how things are going. So it's not like 6 months from now I will ask my coaching client, okay, so where are you 6 months later? No, of course not. It's going to be a consistent maintaining of the consistent progress. So what we do then is each and every week we check, did we accomplish what we set out to accomplish in this week? And are there any challenges or setbacks that we run into? And of course, many of my coaching clients follow the path or take the journey that I have already traveled. And so it allows me to know a few things, for example, certain setbacks or certain pitfalls along the way, and also certain shortcuts that I can help people take so that they can achieve greater mastery along this journey and also spend less time and energy accomplishing greater results, which is my definition of peak performance, by the way.
Awesome. Cool.
Great.
Yeah. That answers that question.
Excellent. Well, and if any of our viewers, if you have any questions or comments about this particular process or anything else related to Qigong coaching, you are welcome to email me directly at tantrapa@gmail.com. And below this video, you can also click the link to schedule a complimentary coaching session, during which either myself or one of my associates will be able to help you develop a strategy, a very detailed and very comprehensive strategy for manifesting your greatest dreams that you would like to manifest this year. On this note, I want to thank you. Thank you, Sheldon.
Thanks for having me.
I want to thank all of our viewers, and I'm here to support you on this journey of making this year the greatest year in your life to date. So please don't hesitate to contact me and to request a session. I look forward to working with you. Namaste.